Andrew Miller, Shane Black from Hook'emHeadlines.com. We are coming back at y'all today with kind of a look ahead to the 2023 season. We haven't really done a video looking at all of the newcomers, if you will, for Texas this year, and what type of impact that, all the transfers and the freshman class could have on the Longhorns this fall. We do a lot of like breakdowns and more comprehensive pieces looking ahead to camp and things like that. But, really taking an overarching look just at, who could contribute immediately and really kind of pinpointing the specific players to watch that, could impact the Longhorns right away this fall. That's kind of what we're going to be doing here. We're going to start by taking a look at the transfers. Texas had a small, but, really high quality transfer class. And then among the freshmen in the 2023 class, and obviously Texas signed a top 5 class in the nation. So, just given all the 5 stars, a handful of number 1 rated recruits in the nation at their respective positions, you're going to get some, immediate impact guys out of that. For the transfers, we're just going to take a look at who are going to be the real high level guys, potential all Big 12, all American type performers versus, guys that are just going to be contributors this fall, because I don't think any of the players that Texas brought in this transfer class are going to be long-term developmental guys or anything like that. It's pretty much all immediate contributors. And then for the freshman class, you're going to have 4 different ways that we'll look at that, but we'll kind of explain that once we get through the transfers. But just at a high level, this group of newcomers for Texas, I think what's so significant about them is that I really felt like in about every way, Texas kind of upgraded the roster, added depth, talent, quality pieces across the board on multiple sides of the ball. Didn't lose a ton in terms of roster attrition, transfer portal, decommitments, anything like that. You lost Rashawn Johnson, DeMarvion Overshone, Bijan Robinson, some quality pieces along the defensive line. But other than that, I really felt like the roster is very much in a better spot this year than it was at the same time last year. I think that kind of goes without saying, but it's a very different feeling, and it kind of gives you a different way to look at this conversation heading into the season. What are some of your thoughts on the newcomers?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Sark did a wonderful job of kind of going out and picking guys who he thought could help improve this roster. Like you mentioned, smaller transfer class of only 5 players. But you look around at the dominant programs, Georgia, Alabama, they're not bringing in a ton of transfers, and they do a lot of internal development. So I think Texas is kind of going down that path as well. So Sark picked a few positions of need and a few players that he believes could come in and contribute immediately. Last year we saw, guys like Ajay Hall, Julio Billingsley, people that just didn't really see the field. And if they were going to succeed at Texas, we thought it was going to be, potentially down the road a little bit. So all 5 guys that Sark brought in this spring, I think are going to be major contributors this fall and are going to have a lot to say about Texas's success. And I think that's good for the Longhorns because I have a lot of confidence in these 5 players. We'll go through them name by name, but I think you have a potential to get a couple all Big 12 selections here, potentially some All-Americans as well, and some guys who could really be leaders and step up for Texas in the fall.
Yeah, I think you're hearing a lot about these guys already in terms of the way that they're stepping up in the locker room. I would pinpoint guys like Trill Carter, like Gavin Holmes, that the staff is clearly seeing something from. There's been a lot of chatter about Gavin Holmes already hosting recruits for visits, for a newcomer, a new transfer into the program, and not even a guy that's a guaranteed starter. For him to be hosting recruits really says a lot about his impact on the program already and his leadership, his role within the locker room. The staff obviously trusts him a lot. And then Trill Carter, just his work ethic sounds like it's blown everyone away so far. And so, even some of the guys that might not be considered, All-American type candidates or even all Big 12 candidates, I think they're going to have important roles on the team. And so I'm going to start here with and before I get into it, did an article on the site earlier this week talking about 3 transfers that I think will or potentially could become stars for the Longhorns this fall. Just because, like you said, this is such a quality transfer class that, you can see that Sark's really at the point in developing this program where Texas can, pick and choose more selectively instead of having to take, a dozen or 15 transfers just to fill out a roster. And so I'm going to start with the first name, and I think the most obvious one to become a star this fall. It's Sydir Mitchell, former Georgia wide receiver. Mitchell, obviously a guy, if he can stay healthy, that's going to have a massive impact on the boundary at Texas. I did an article earlier today talking about how Texas has the most productive returning receiver core in the Big 12. Just looking at, the top 5 guys and the starting tight end on the depth chart. That was the criteria for the piece. But I think that Mitchell is going to kind of be exactly what Quinn Ewers and the Longhorns need on the boundary. I thought it was really impressive to see Brock Bowers, I'd say the best tight end in the country, All-American, reigning Mackey Award winner at Georgia. He said at SEC Media Days that he thinks AD Mitchell is one of the twitchiest dudes he's ever seen. Just called him an impressive player. Really had a lot of good things about to say for him as a teammate. Same thing with Georgia cornerback Kamari Lassiter. Lassiter said that he was a tough cover in one-on-one matchups during their time together at Georgia, and so it was nice to hear a lot of that stuff that his teammates had to say, or that his former teammates had to say about him there. And all in all, I mean, you saw him in the spring game, had that tremendous catch from Ewers in the end zone. Heard a lot of good things about his work in 7-on-7 this summer, and just what he was able to do after maybe the first week or two of spring ball. There's a lot of things here with Mitchell that are adding up to him having a really, really big season. I think there's a good chance that he could be the leading wide receiver for the Longhorns this fall, but like I said, assuming he's able to stay healthy.
Yeah, and that's high praise considering who's going to be lining up on the other side with Xavier Worthy. And I completely agree with you. I think it's a wide receiver with a body type that Texas needed. 6'4", 190, good hands, can go up and get the ball, can win those contested battles for Ewers. And last year, we saw a lot of speed on the outside for Texas, but Casey Kane, who was kind of the bigger body receiver, really didn't show a whole lot. So to get AD Mitchell in, I think is massive. I think he's going to be the perfect complement to Worthy. Both of them you need to shadow with a second defender, but for 2 different reasons. And looking at this whole Texas offense, just all the pieces complement each other so well. It's going to seem at times for defenses like, hey, we're just outmatched. We need, 12, 13 defenders to stop all these guys. So I think that's a really good sign. And if AD Mitchell stays healthy, I think there's a strong chance he could be the leading receiver on the team, like you said.
Yeah, and I mean, him upgrading the receiver core, I mean, it goes beyond just being an upgrade over a guy like Casey Kane. It's adding more assurance that, as good of a wide receiver as Isaiah Neyor is when he's healthy. I'd be remiss if I didn't say there was some sort of, caution that I have with his recovery from that knee injury last fall. I think Neyor could have a really, really good season this fall. Just another tremendous wide receiver on the boundary for Texas, guy that can also go up and get those contested 50-50 balls, but is also like a tremendous deep threat that can stretch the field down the boundary as well. The next one, and I think if you're just talking guys that have like star potential at Texas and, guys that are really proven it also at other spots, Jalen Catalon would have to be the next name up on the list. Catalon was like the 3rd or 4th, I think, portal edition of the offseason. He obviously, if he's able to stay healthy, he's a tremendous playmaker on the back end of the defense. He could be incredibly integral to the secondary. Really would be probably the best boundary safety that Texas has had in a long time. And, there's so many ways that he can be a game breaker. But yeah, Catalon sounds like he's on the right track right now. At least coming out of summer workouts, he's limited during spring ball with the injury concerns still. Don't 100% know if he's going to be full go in fall camp, like if that green jersey is going to be off here when fall camp begins on August 2nd. But sounds like he's on the right track. He was a full participant the back end of summer workouts for most of the way. So,
yeah, for all the praise we gave to AD Mitchell, and rightfully so, I think there's a chance if Catalon, like you said, barring injury, I think he could be a bigger contributor for the 2023 Longhorns than Mitchell. Just what he brings to the middle of the defense, like you said, just another coach on the field. We saw what he did in 2020 when he was first team All SEC, and then injuries have kind of derailed him since. But if he's able to stay healthy, he is going to be massive in the middle of that defense. It's going to help Texas get off the field on third downs. The impact that he's going to have, could be more than what Mitchell has on the offensive side of the ball. And that's me saying I think Mitchell is going to be the leading receiver on this team. So a healthy Catalan is going to improve this defense a ton. And I'm excited to see how PK uses him and what he can bring. Week 2 against Alabama, it's going to be a major test for him, especially in Tuscaloosa. And he's someone that I think is going to have a lot of game-changing plays this fall. And I'm really excited to watch Catalan.
Yeah, and it wouldn't really surprise me either. We'll talk more about like the specific personnel strategies when Texas gets closer to week 1 against Rice. But yeah, I mean, given how big that week 2 game is against Alabama, and Catalan's got that SEC experience under his belt from his time at Arkansas, it wouldn't surprise me if he was, not fully unleashed, shall we say?
Yeah, agree. Yeah. I think you could see that with we don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but with a decent amount of players that potentially pick up small injuries in fall camp. Sark is going to be he's going to have his eyes set on that September 9th matchup for sure.
Yeah, definitely. The next guy I wanted to talk about it, like if I'm just sticking to the article I did, is Gavin Holmes. But I wanted to leave this one up a little bit for debate because unless you're just an enormous fan of punters, that leaves 2 guys left up on the transfer class. You pick from Trill Carter or Gavin Holmes. Or, like I said, I'll leave it up to you. I think Jalen Catalan and A.D. Mitchell are the 2 guys you could say, like, if they're healthy, yeah, they're probably like star-level performers for Texas. If not, well, I don't really want to speculate on that. The rest of the class, I think Gavin Holmes, the ceiling's higher. But I also think there's more competition for him to get some of those reps at corner. Trill Carter, I think the floor is a lot higher. He was already an all Big Ten selection in Minnesota last season. He's got a ton of snaps under his belt, more than 1,000 defensive snaps, solid interior run defender. But I think he kind of showed what his ceiling is at Minnesota as well. He's like a decent pass rusher, but not great. I think his impact there is going to be pretty limited. For Holmes, tremendous against the deep ball, was really productive, snagged a few interceptions at Wake Forest. I think with a better secondary cast around him, maybe a chance to be even more disruptive this year. So I'd say Holmes is the higher ceiling of the 2. What do you think of that dynamic?
I think it's a fair assessment on both players. But the depth at both positions is strong, which is, testament to Sark and what he's built. But I agree with you. I think Holmes, if he does win that field corner spot, battling with Terrence Brooks and Manny Muhammad, he's going to have to earn it. And like you said, tremendous against the deep ball. And if he's able to take that second step and you have Holmes on one side of the field, Ryan Watts on the other, and then Terrence Brooks and Manny Muhammad as guys who can come in, as the backups, that's a tremendous secondary. I just think Holmes can have a bigger impact than what Trill Carter can. I do think that you will see an impact on the outside from what Holmes brings in. And so, like you said, game-changing plays like interceptions or just even locking down that side of the field would be huge. So I think he has more on his plate, but I'm also not nervous about that, I guess I would say.
And, again, given the nature of Pete Kwiatkowski's defensive scheme, there's just such a heavy emphasis placed on being able to hold your own in one-on-one coverage. And Holmes proved that he can handle that at Wake Forest at multiple levels of the field, might I add. I mentioned his success against the deep ball, but he also has good timing and instincts in the intermediate and short passing game as well. So I think all around, just there's more on his shoulders to be an impact player. So the other addition to the team via the transfer portal this offseason was Ryan Sanborn. I think I could leave it at this. Upgrading the punting game is really, really important. I think that Jeff Banks has shown that he's leaving no stone unturned with making sure that every special teams unit is shored up. And you added Joe DeCamillis guy with 30 plus years of NFL coaching experience this offseason to help out the special teams. I think the special teams would be in a really solid spot. Sanborn, highest graded punter in the in the Pac-12 last season, according to PFF. He's a guy that's really accurate, solid technical punter. So I think he's going to be an upgrade over Daniel Trejo from last season. So do you have anything else to add on the transfers?
No, I think we covered it.
Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look now at the freshman class. The high school recruits that Texas brought in for the 2023 cycle. A little more than half of which were early enrollees. So, guys that we've had a little bit more time to digest where they sit on the depth chart and, what their role is looking like heading into the season. Still, some movement can be had during fall camp. You can have some late risers, summer enrollees also, getting those reps during fall camps even more important so that they can find their roles on the team. But I'd say let's just go ahead and start at the top here. I'm just going to go by rankings in 24/7 Sports Composite. Arch Manning, I'd say early impact to long-term impact. He pretty much has his own category.
Yeah.
Because Arch is obviously not expected to come in and be the starter from day one, and so he's probably going to be the starter. I'd still say smart money is on next year. The way that Sark spoke about him at Big 12 Media Days, really kind of pulling back from putting any sort of pressure on him right now, putting all the emphasis on Quinn, but also saying, just speaking to as much as he did, how bright of a future Arch has at Texas. There will be that competition between him and Malik Murphy in the future, but, right now, I think that starting job is probably his for the taking in 2024 at the latest 2025.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't. For as much as we've talked about Arch Manning as a recruit, there's not a whole lot to say about him right now. The whole plan was for him to, pretty much redshirt in 2023. If you see Arch Manning on the field this fall for more than like a mop-up snap here or there, something has likely gone very wrong. So hopefully we just wait until next spring, which, we're going to have a lot of debate about that potential QB competition with him and Malik Murphy.
And I need to take a step back a little bit. I forgot there's going to be 4 different ways that we really look to bucket these true freshmen from the 2023 class. Arch, I guess that's okay that we started because he's kind of got his own bucket.
Yeah.
But, there's guys that are going to be an immediate impact, that they can contribute from day one. Then there's going to be early impact contributors. Guys that could get rotational reps, maybe push their way and competing for starting reps by the end of the season, but more than likely are like 2 to 3 year impact guys. Then you have long-term developmental, more the guys that after a few years on campus could have some real upside. And then lastly, just depth pieces, maybe some late cycle additions or, guys that were just kind of brought in to make sure that the 2 deep is rounded up. And so next name up on the list, I've got 5-star linebacker, at least according to 24/7 Sports Composite, number 1 linebacker recruit in the nation in the 2023 class, Anthony Hill. So I think it goes without saying that he's pretty much the definition of an immediate impact guy in this class. That obviously, if you follow Texas, what he's brought so far. A guy that's going to be pretty specialized pass rusher. I would assume the starting Sam linebacker that currently looks to be his role, but we'll see if he ends up challenging for the Will spot heading into the fall. Tark kind of likes him there and know that. But, I think either way, Hill's going to be an immediate starter.
Yeah, definitely. The thing with Hill, we don't really know how he's going to fit in 2023. But what we can guarantee is he will fit in somewhere. You will see him on the field a lot. He will be making an immediate impact. And he's a guy who is poised for 3 years and done on the 40.
Yeah, more than likely. And I think that's okay because, if he is able to come in and find success right away, kind of like Harold Perkins at LSU, that just does even better for Texas on the recruiting trail where, maybe not this cycle because Texas is kind of looking to push linebacker recruiting more to the 2025 class. But, having a guy like Ant Hill that you were able to say, like, yeah, we flipped him when the program was trending up and, really got him in and immediately found a role for him. And, he was able to develop and become just like a high level player right away. That's just such an easy selling point to recruit. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. Next one up is CJ Baxter, number one running back recruit in the nation in the 2023 class, according to 247 Sports Composite. 5-star guy out of Orlando Edgewater in Florida. Baxter, I'm still going to put him in the spot of like immediate impact, immediate contributor, but I still think that it wouldn't be super surprising if Jonathan Brooks ends up getting more touches than him by the end of the season. I think a lot of us felt at the beginning of the offseason that he would probably be the starter day one. It seems like Jonathan Brooks is that guy, is RB1 heading into the fall.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I would put Baxter as an immediate impact guy as well. I think he can be an immediate impact player at the running back position without being the starter. I mean, we saw what Sark did with Bijan and Roschon. He's not afraid to split touches if he thinks that he has some capable guys back there. So I think Baxter is going to touch the ball a fair amount, and he's going to have some highs and some lows, but ultimately, I think you got to put him in the immediate impact category.
Yeah, I agree. And, it's just the importance of Sark kind of having that bell cow type running back that we always talk about that, it's a staple of his offense. He likes having that one guy that he can rely on to give 25, 30 touches a game. A little bit more old school in that sense still, but yeah, I mean, Baxter, he's still going to be an extremely important running back. I would say, yeah, that it still wouldn't surprise me if by the end of the season he's a guy that's got between 500 and 1,000 rushing yards. Next one up is 5-star wide receiver out of DeSoto, Johntay Cook. I'm going to say for Johntay, I'm going to put him in early impact because I don't think Jontay's full impact is going to be felt right away. I think that would be taking a bit away from his ability to say that, yeah, I think he's still going to get significant reps this year at wideout, but he's not going to be unleashed. It's not going to be shown to the full extent of what he can do probably until next season. And I think that's where you put him in the early impact category.
Agree. He's going to be on the field a decent amount, and he's going to have a few chunk plays, but I still think there are 4 wide receivers on the step chart that will finish the season with more catches than him. So we're going to see flashes of Cook here and there, but when it gets down to it, he's not going to be the guy that's on the field. It's going to be Worthy. It's going to be A.D. Mitchell, Jay Witt, and Isaiah Nair.
Yeah, I think well said. Next one, high 4-star safety out of New Iberia, Westgate, Louisiana, Derek Williams. Early impact for me. I think Williams is similar to Cook, where could he be getting starter level reps by the end of the season? Sure. Does he have the ability to make an immediate impact? Most definitely. I think it hurt Williams a little bit that he wasn't a spring enrollee, but it's been clear during summer workouts, summer 7-on-7s, that he really looks the part, and that still enrolling during the summer, he didn't really lose a step. And so I think for him, and we talked about it a lot, especially with the injury risk that you have with a guy like Jalen Catalon, Williams is going to be an extremely important player, I think, this fall. So for me, he's on that brink of immediate impact, but I'll keep him at early impact just because I think ideally you have Catalon healthy for a full season, and then you kind of have the situation where he passes the torch to Derek Williams. Still, though, I mean, you just got to love this situation either way, because Texas has 2 SEC caliber safeties, one a senior, one a true freshman right now. And you heard Jahdae Barron mention at Big 12 Media Days. Mine's already in the SEC. But Big 12 Media Days that, Derek Williams, his feel for the game, his football IQ, that it really does remind him of a guy like Jalen Catalon. And so I think that, really high praise coming from a DB as good as Jahdae Barron. But like I said, Williams, early impact, near immediate impact for me.
Yeah, you covered it perfectly. Like you mentioned, if he would have enrolled in January, I think there's a chance where he's the clear-cut third safety behind the starters, Jaron Thompson and Jalen Catalon. just the way we've seen him progress in summer and what we've heard has been crazy. So I couldn't imagine if he had those extra couple months. But, right now, I think he's going to be eased in. And, towards the back half of the season, we'll start to get more on-field reps and then, prime him for that starting role in 2024. So I'll side with early impact as well.
Next one up, 4-star wide receiver Ryan Niblett. 4-star cornerback Malik Muhammad. Skipped over him. Muhammad, early impact. Still going to be able to push for reps. But I would peg Muhammad as the guy that could be like a big riser during the fall because it sounds like he's progressed so much this offseason. He's an early enrollee, made a lot of strides during the spring. Sounds like he continued to just get down to work, was, really took advantage of the time he had in the film room, improved his physicality and, way that he's able to handle his one-on-one matchups with the receivers and 7-on-7 work this summer. There was that one report a few weeks ago from Eric Nalin of Inside Texas that was talking about the secondary really getting the best of Quinn Ewers and Texas's offense in 7-on-7. And I don't think we should read into it too much, just to take away the fact that the secondary is looking really, really good, really stout heading into the fall. And I think a guy like Manny Muhammad is one of the reasons why the secondary is looking like the most talented deep one that Texas has had in a long time. And so, again, for him, early impact, but yeah, he's still probably going to hold down a key spot on the 2 deep.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect spot for Manny Muhammad. I'm going early impact as well, but bringing in a guy like Gavin Holmes, Manny Muhammad doesn't have the pressure to go out there and be a day one starter. Right now, if you look at the field corner, Gavin Holmes, Terrence Brooks, Brooks is pretty interchangeable field and boundary, but Manny Muhammad is going to get his reps. But if he has a couple bad reps here and there, there's going to be no problem pulling him off the field because that secondary has a ton of guys they can turn to. I think it's a perfect situation for Muhammad, just like for Derek Williams.
Now it's Ryan Niblett, 4-star wide receiver out of Aldine Eisenhower in Houston. Niblett, he's almost convinced me at this point to put him in the early impact bucket, but I'm going to keep him in long-term developmental. He's the highest rated recruit that I'm putting in the developmental category, but it's sounding like this summer he's looking more polished than a lot of people thought he would be. So it sounds like he's ahead of schedule in that regard, which is great to hear. At the same time, I still think he's got some strides he needs to make. I think he's still kind of on the outside looking in for the 2 deep at wide receiver heading into fall camp.
Completely agree with everything you said. Again, the strides that he's made, or so we've heard this summer, was almost a little bit surprising. He'll make an impact on special teams in the fall, but I agree, kind of more long-term development. That long-term, though, is going to be 2024, considering all the receivers that will leave after this fall.
His speed is crazy, too. Sounds like he's one of the fastest guys on the team. I think that, his ability to contribute in 2024 is going to depend on what role he settles into in the wide receiver room. He's got the ability to play slot receiver. I think he's kind of on that track right now to compete for that spot. But I think right now that's probably going to be DeAndre Moore. So then can he be the guy that challenges for a spot at the field receiver? That right now looks like Johntay Cook. We'll see. This is a testament to a lot of the depth that Texas has in the wide receiver room. But, Texas also likes to get Texas likes to work with different formations. And I think 4 wide receiver sets with Niblett on the field next year are definitely not out of the question. Anyway, next one up here is 4-star athlete Jelani McDonald. McDonald, again, definition of a guy that's like developmental piece. Sounds like from a physical perspective, he's blown everyone away this summer. He ran track and field at Waco Connolly really up until I think it was 2 weeks before he arrived on campus, had the UIL state track meet. Multi-phased athlete, guy that's just got crazy speed, physical tools, incredibly high upside athlete that I think is going to be a really valuable chess piece for PK and the Longhorns defense for multiple years in the future. I think for him, knowing that he's probably more of a hybrid linebacker type, I think that he could be 2025 or 2026 pushing for starting reps. But you would probably target once Jalen Ford is gone and Anthony Hill's kind of taken that bigger linebacker role for a guy like Jelani McDonald to really have learned from Ford and then usher into the be able to compete for starting reps by that time. and really keep that linebacker cycle moving along. Keep things fresh on the recruiting trail as well.
Yeah, I think I'd put him in the long-term developmental bucket, but I would push back on the 25-26 timeline. I just think the way that he rose in the rankings, towards the end of the cycle, had such a big push up the rankings in the last 6 months and during his senior year, that he's someone that's going to get on campus, and PK is going to be forced to put him somewhere on the field. That's just how good and how much of a freak athlete he is. And he's one of those guys that you're going to have to deal with, potentially some mistakes in game. But once he cleans that up, the ceiling is, the sky's the limit for this guy. So
next one up is 4-star wide receiver out of St. John Bosco, DeAndre Moore. Early impact, he was on the 2 deep during spring ball, got, significant snaps and, got quite a few targets during the spring game. Has continued to do good work this summer. He's kind of primed to be a guy that's going to be your starting slot wide receiver next year. So, once Jordan Whittington is exhausted his eligibility, I think DeAndre Moore is that really the only sure thing that I think you have out of the slot next year. So, like I said, early impact for me.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that, but he'd be more one that I'd lump in the early impact / long-term development, just because, 2023, I don't really see any way he's getting on the field very much, unless it's kind of in games that are already decided. But like you said, then 2024 is a whole new can of worms, because he is going to be relied on a lot. So I think it's going to go from, you might see him have 8 catches in 2023, then 2024 is going to need to be a guy who's at 40-50 catch range. So
next guy up is 4-star edge rusher out of Austin Westlake, Colton Vasek. I'm going to say early impact just because of how much Texas needs help at the edge position. Vasek, I think he put on like 20 pounds during summer workouts. I would have to go back and look at the post summer roster, but Texas just updated the roster at Big 12 or during Big 12 media days, and I know Vasek was he's up to around 242.
Wow.
I think he came in at around like 225, 230. So getting his body right, adding strength where he needs to. He got some solid reps in during the spring, and so given how natural of a pass rusher he is, Texas needs the type of guys. So early impact, I'd love if he's an immediate impact, but I think realistically probably closer to early impact.
Yeah, completely agree. It's kind of just positional need at that point. I think he's grown into his frame, like you just mentioned, but because of the need that Texas had just for playmakers on the edge, he's going to get his shot. So I think that just automatically makes him an early impact guy.
Next one up is 4-star linebacker / edge rusher out of Skyridge High School in Utah, Tausili Akana. Akana, I'm going to put it early impact, and I'm almost sliding down toward developmental because it doesn't really look like he's headed in the right direction from like a weight perspective, because I think Texas is going to use him more as like a natural pass rusher, where he's like, kind of going to be that stand-up edge rusher, maybe like more of like a Sam linebacker type. But, a pure pass rusher, he's right now at 6'4", 220. Some of the weigh-ins that he had coming out of high school, and Polynesian Bowl, I think, was another one of the most recent ones where he was weighed in around like 220 or 225. So he either put on no weight or lost weight during the summer.
Yeah, I body type is big here too, and he doesn't really, the position fit. We don't know exactly where he's going to fit in. Is it going to be, like hand in the dirt edge rusher? I don't think, he certainly doesn't have the weight for that right now. So that's why I'm going to go long-term developmental piece. Obviously one of the higher rated linebackers in the country, but I just think based on the fact that I don't really know exactly where he fits into this defense, I'm just going to put him in that long-term developmental piece, and I don't know how much of we will see of him this fall.
Next one up is 4-star interior well, they have him marked as an interior offensive lineman, but I think there's a chance he could wind up playing at offensive tackle. But Jaydon Chatman. I'm going to put Chatman at early impact. I think he kind of falls somewhere between early impact and developmental, just from the perspective that he's going to have to earn his reps. And I don't think he's done that yet at Texas. He was an early enrollee. He was the highest rated offensive lineman in the 2023 class. To be honest, I think you can throw recruiting rankings out the window, though, with this offensive line class, because so many of these guys are just developmental pieces that, are going to be looked at as potential starters in 2 or 3 years. Once you have guys like Kelvin Banks, Hayden Connor, DJ Campbell, Cole Hudson leaving campus. And so Chatman, to me, early impact, very close to developmental.
Yeah, I'm going to lean towards developmental just because, and we know he's not going to get any reps this year. And as for 2024, when Christian Jones departs, if that's where they end up slotting him on the outside, I think, Cameron Williams and even another freshman in this class we'll get to, Payton Kirkland, I think have more of an inside shot at that job. So,
yeah, he was getting third team reps during the spring. It seems like he's on that trajectory for the fall. So yeah, like you said, I don't think that bodes well for him in terms of his snap count for this fall. Next one up is 4-star defensive lineman Sydir Mitchell out of Oradell Bergen Catholic High School in New Jersey. I'm still going to put Sydir Mitchell at early impact, borderline immediate impact. I like the direction of Sydir Mitchell's game right now. Obviously he was brought in, Texas got him over Georgia. He just fits that exact mold of big human, but he's got quick feet, he's got good hands. Guy that's just going to be a force up front, be able to draw double teams. But he came in a little heavy at 6'5", 350 pounds. He's down to, I think, 335. And so he dropped weight. There was talk during the spring of him needing to be able to carry his weight better. And it sounds like he's on the right track in that regard. So
I'm going to go early impact. Pretty solid in that bucket. Maybe not as bullish. Long term, I am bullish on Sydir Mitchell, but not as quickly of an impact. I do think that he's going to be a guy when he does get snaps in 2023, the announcers are going to make you aware of it just because of his sheer size and how he moves for a human at that size. You're going to be made aware of when Sydir Mitchell gets put on the field, just either by your eyeballs or listening to the people calling the game. So I think he's going to have definitely some good snaps in 2023. I don't think it's going to be a ton of action. There is a solid amount of depth up front in the middle. So 2024, after, a whole year in nutrition and strength and conditioning program, I think is kind of where he really takes a step forward.
Yeah, and I would just add this, that I think that by the end of the season, I think there's a good chance that he could already surpass a guy like Vernon Broughton along the interior defensive line in fall camp. I mean, I know that Vernon Broughton's kind of a pure 3-tech guy, but, Sydir Mitchell, though, behind Byron Murphy, I think that backup nose position is up for the taking. And I think if Sydir looks good during fall camp and, really is able to push for some reps early in the regular season and look good, that he could, we mentioned that Bo Davis likes to rotate these guys a lot, keep them fresh. And so I think Sydir Mitchell getting his body right, making sure that he can handle the reps that he does get, carry his weight well. Yeah, I think he's putting himself in a good spot to succeed immediately heading into the fall. Next one up is one of my favorites from this class so far, just the impact that he's had on the program so far. It's 4-star Red Oak safety, Warren Roberson. Late cycle addition, flipped from TCU before the late signing day in February. He's kind of the definition of a guy that surpassed expectations, been a pleasant surprise for Texas so far. And he's a summer enrollee, so, he just kind of defies the usual logic that you would get from a, Sark era recruit that, they really like these guys, especially at, positions where you have more to digest, like in the defensive backfield where, Texas likes to cross-train these guys, have them ready at multiple positions. But Roberson's looked the part physically. He's adjusted well to, sounds like, life on campus and found kind of where his role will be in the defense. Sounds like specifically safety is where he's going to fit. There was some talk of him maybe fitting in at nickel. I think he, again, mentioned Texas still likes to cross-train these guys, so he could still be a nickel back, I think. But I would peg him early impact at this point, honestly. He's looked good.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think I'll go with early impact as well. Quinn mentioned him by name at Big 12 Media Days. That's always a good sign. So Yeah, from everything we've heard, like you mentioned, some are in enrollee as well. So, yeah, I think it's fair to put him in as that kind of early impact. Especially, we don't really know what's happening on the two deep at the safety position. We know who the starters are, but other than that, it's kind of up for grabs. And Roberson can certainly play his way into that two deep.
Yeah, very true. Um, Kind of getting down the list here. Samaje Burrell is next one up. Four-star linebacker out of North Crowley High School in Fort Worth. Burrell, I'm going to put him, he could make an early impact. Texas, is going to lose Jalen Ford next year. And, David Benda will be gone. Mo Blackwell, he'll probably be back. But Texas is going to face a little bit of linebacker attrition. And, Burrell's going to be a guy that if he shows growth this year, that he, could push for starting reps or at least a spot on the two deep. But right now I think there's competition. I think he's got a little bit of a learning curve. And so I'm going to put Burrell at long-term developmental.
I would push back. I'm going to put him in just slightly in the early impact. I think there's a chance that he could be used this year. Just because, we've had the conversation at will. Is it going to be Benda? Is it going to be Blackwell? And while we have two guys who we think could start there, it's not always the best thing. So none of those, basically what I'm saying, neither of those two guys have taken the bull by the horns and won that job. I think it leaves an opening for a guy like Burrell, should he have a strong fall camp, work his way onto the field and kind of show what he's got. So
Liona Lefau is next one up, four-star linebacker out of Kahuku High School in Hawaii. I'm going to I think the way that you feel about Burrell is kind of the way I feel about Lefau, where, he's looked really mature so far, absorbed the defensive concepts, the scheme really well, and just he looks like a guy that is going to be the off-ball linebacker that you want along the defensive front. And he's a good candidate once Jalen Ford leaves campus to kind of be that next guy. I've expressed this thought before on the show, but I like Lefau. I think he's early impact.
Yeah, I'm going to go coward's way out and say early impact as well, just because I'll say it for both of these linebackers, because Texas is going to need one of these freshmen. Obviously, you got Anthony Hill. They're going to need another freshman to play some snaps. You have Jet Bush and a few guys we mentioned, but one of these other freshmen is going to play, and so it could be Lefau, it could be Burrell. I'll go early impact on Lefau as well.
Yeah. Trevor Goosby, high 3-star offensive tackle out of Melissa. Developmental. Goosby, I think he was, because I believe he was a flip from TCU. Came out of high school like 6'6", 280. Really had a lot of space to fill out his frame. Really good hands, violent hands, good technique. I think just really need to hit the weight room hard, and still has a ways to go in that regard to get his body right to be able to compete once Texas moves from the Big 12 to the SEC. But Goosby, I think, could be a really solid offensive tackle a few years down the line. So I think high upside developmental guy.
Completely agree.
Tre Wisner, 3-star running back out of DeSoto. I don't want, Tre Wisner, he's a good dude, and he, pretty solid running back prospect. It's just the way that Texas is recruiting at the running back position right now and how deep this running back room is heading into the future. I'm going to say depth guy, because I don't see the path for him at this point, especially having Christian Clark and Jared Gibson committed to the 2024 class. The guys that the caliber of guys they're going after in 2025, number 1 running back Jordan Davison, number 2 running back Harlem Berry, both have Texas high on their list. I just don't see it right now for Wisner.
I completely agree. And like you said, it has nothing to do with Wisner, the player. It has more to do with Tashard Choice, the coach and the recruiter, and who he's bringing into this program. And I think Wisner is a guy who, if he sticks around for a couple years and, knock on wood, some injuries happen, could find his way on the field and be a productive player. But, bar that, I don't see how he gets snaps over some of these other guys Texas is recruiting and has signed.
Billy Walton, 3-star edge out of South Oak Cliff High School. It flipped from Oklahoma State. Yeah, I heard good things about Walton. From a physical perspective, he kind of looks like a smaller, like Jamon Tapp, but, it sounds like he has come into the defense and held his own and, really gotten down to work in the just more naturally assimilated with the team as a summer enrollee than most of the edge rushers over the past couple of years for Texas. And not saying bad things about them, but I think it shows a lot to Billy Walton that, he's a guy that was prepared right from day one. I'm going to actually put Billy Walton borderline. I wouldn't say borderline early impact, but I'm still going to put developmental guy that can make an impact. I would say 3 years.
I think that's a fair take. I think he has the tools to do that. Just got to fill out a little bit. But like you said, I mean, you go down the list hearing good things about a lot of these guys. So I'd go with long-term development.
Next one up is 3-star Orlando Dr. Phillips offensive tackle Payton Kirkland, one of those big humans. I'm going to put him in early impact. He's already second team offensive tackle, a guy that, depending on if Texas lands Brandon Baker in the 2024 class, once a guy like Christian Jones or Kelvin Banks is done on the 40, Payton Kirkland's going to be looked at as one of those guys to compete for those starting jobs. Yeah,
Kirkland is the one offensive lineman in this class I'd put as early impact. I think he's stood out the most. And like you said, I think he's going to be right in the thick of any competition that opens up on the outside, which is, not going to be Kelvin Banks' spot, but Christian Jones, right tackle spot 2024.
Yeah. Another offensive tackle, 3-star Frisco Wakeland product, Connor Stroh. Stroh, like kind of a low to mid-tier 3-star. I think he could be a real gem find. Really blowing people away in the weight room. He's almost like a competitive weightlifter, it sounds like. And actually, I think he was.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah.
But even at Texas, he kind of brings that edge. And so I think that Stroh could be a gem find, a couple of years, maybe a few years down the line, is pushing for starting spots. But I'm not quite ready to put him in that early impact tier. So I'm going to say developmental with some upside.
I'll go with I agree with you. Long-term developmental.
Spencer Shannon, next one up on the list, 3-star tight end out of Santa Ana Mater Dei High School. I'm going to put him in early impact. Texas needs a guy that can be like a blocking tight end. And there's not many guys that have the physical tools and are kind of ready in that phase of their game yet, like Shannon. So to be honest, like beyond Gunnar Helm and JT Sanders, I don't know how much you have at tight end right now. Juan Davis, I just don't think is that guy. Will Randle's injured, but we'll get to him a little bit later. So I'm going to put Shannon at early impact.
I think that's fair. I mean, just looking at the most recent depth chart, only 10 pounds less than Helm and pretty much the same weight as JT Sanders. I'd like to see him tested in the blocking game. I think that's pretty crucial to see how he could impact his team. But, purely based off the fact we need tight ends, I think putting him in an early impact is the right call. And I'll agree with you there.
And I mean, I don't see where the next blocking tight end's coming from because Jordan Washington is the only tight end we have committed to the 2024 class right now. And I don't know if Jeff Banks is going to take another high school guy in the 2024 class. Maybe Portal would be the next way to look. But we got 2 names left here. 3-star Mansfield Timberview interior offensive lineman Andre Cojoe. I'm going to put Cojoe at long-term upside, borderline depth piece, because I think with some of the guys we got coming in, some of the interior guys in the 2024 class, Nate Kibble, Daniel Cruz, that Cojoe is going to be in the midst of a lot of competition for those reps along the interior offensive line. But I still think, he's a big human. I think he progressed during the spring. It would be foolish to count him out this early.
Completely agree with everything you said. I mean, looking at it on paper, you got guys in the 22 class ahead of him that he will not pass up, and then guys in the 24 class who look poised to potentially pass him up. But it's too early to count him out and just completely put him at depth. So,
and then the last one here is 3-star tight end Will Randle. I hate doing this too. I'm gonna have to put him as depth because Will Randle will probably be looked at as a guy that could be like a inline tight end, a guy that can be a threat out in the flats, short and intermediate passing game with Arch Manning, just because of the natural connection they have there. But outside of that, I just don't. I mean, it's unfortunate the ACL tear, especially you hate to see it like that late in his high school career, impact his early college career the way that will, just with having to go through the rehab program and all. But, I think that bringing a guy like Jordan Washington, that's just such a high upside receiving tight end, having Gunnar Helm for another couple of years, having Spencer Shannon, I think both roles, the receiving and the blocking tight end, I think you got one or two guys at both spots that are going to end up getting ahead of Will Randle because of the injury.
I hear what you're saying. I'll slightly push back and I'll go long-term development. I think the injury definitely hurts him in the short term, but we still really haven't seen what he can do in the burnt orange. So in that aspect, it helps him because he could come out next spring and just light the world on fire. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, we heard he wasn't just recruited to Texas because of Arch Manning. The connection between the two of them certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I think that about does it. I know at the beginning of the video we were like, 20 minutes.
Yeah, and start going through them all.
Yeah, but no, I mean I think this was good to get kind of a look at 30 guys. I guess I haven't really thought about it this way. It's interesting because I guess a lot of times you think with the small portal class and all the returning starters that Texas has, all the experience that they brought back, that, you wouldn't really have this many younger players or new additions to the program that could be impacting right away or pushing for starting spots or at least hold key roles on the two deep. And so I think it's important to know some of these names.
Yeah, my takeaway from going through this list is, just how Sark and the staff knocked it out of the park in the 2023 cycle. Obviously paced by Arch Manning's commitment in June, but tremendous recruiting class that will leave their impact on the 40 acres. Got a ton of good talent.
Well, we're gonna have more fall camp coverage and things like that coming y'all's way. This kind of serves as like a primer to maybe have some additional names to watch, get an additional info, or just kind of be a summary look over to catch up on where a lot of these guys are that are new additions to the program. Like a lot of these guys are spring enrollees, or it's been almost 8 months now since they arrived on campus. So they've had a lot of time to, hit the weight room hard, get some key reps and really get, acquainted with the program, the culture, vibe in the locker room. So all in all, I'm excited for what's to come. We got fall camp. It's almost exactly 2 weeks away now. Season, 6 weeks abouts in the future. So, for Andrew Miller, Shane Black at Hook'emHeadlines.com. That's pretty much it. Welcome.